Welcome to Bryer's Music Showcase. I'm Bryer Cisneros and welcome back to another video. And here is the next episode of my 80s series where I go through every year throughout the 1980s and name my top 5 favorite albums. As always, I'm only restricted to what I have in the collection, and so if you don't see an album that you love, it's either because I don't have it or I didn't like it. Most likely the first option. So right now we're in 1988. And dare I say, maybe the weakest year of the decade, in my opinion. Granted, I don't have much in this year, really. I think I have like 12 albums in this year. So yeah, I am very limited, but I have enough for top 5 and also some honorable mentions, of course. So we'll roll with it. And of course, in the comments below, let me know some of your favorites of this year that I should check out and that I might like. So, not much else to say. Just note this is all just my opinion. You can disagree, you can agree, it doesn't matter. This is just for fun at this point. So without further ado, let's just go right into it. Number 5 to start us off. Here's an album where there was a lot on the line. This band had just lost their longtime bass player. He had died in a tragic bus accident, and to many he was the best bass player in metal history. So how could they continue on without him? Well, they did. They got a new bass player, and the album in question is Injustice for All by Metallica. So yeah, to some this was their last truly great thrash metal album. After this will be the Black Album, where they went in a more commercial sound and many people love it or they either don't like it. So kind of interesting note there, but regardless, let's talk about this album. So this is the first album with their new bass player, Jason Newsted. And to many people, this is every bass player's worst nightmare because the bass is practically inaudible. And that was really came down to James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich because they kind of didn't want the bass to be prominent because they wanted this to sound more harsh. It doesn't have any low end, it's just in-your-face guitars. So not a good way to welcome your new member, but that was a thing back then. So there's, let's see, how many songs are there again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 songs, right? I'll try one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, 9. So 9 songs. They're pretty long too. Like about 6 minutes. There's 9 minutes. There's 7 minutes. The shortest song is like 5 minutes and 13 seconds. So it's definitely takes some time to listen through. But yeah, there's just some great songs, despite the abuse the bass gets on this album. Like you can't deny there's still some great playing on here. I mean, this is probably peak when it comes down to the guitar work. You have Blackened, which is the opening track, very cool song. The title track, Eyes of the Beholder, and of course One, which is one of their most famous songs about war, about a soldier who gets blown up by a landmine, and he's kind of just he wants to die, but it's taken like his speech, his sight, his hearing, so he's kind of just existing, and he wants to die, but he can't communicate it with anybody else. So very, very dark song. Then you have the shortest straw. Then you have Harvest of Sorrow. Then you have To Live Is to Die, which is kind of their big tribute to their previous bass player, Cliff Burton, by the way, if I hadn't mentioned that already. Dyer's Eve. Then you have the Frayed Ends of the Sanity. I kind of went out of order there towards the end, but you get the idea. You're already familiar with this album if you know it. But yeah, it's raw. It's harsh. There's lots of anger. There's sadness. It just a very, very kind of, I guess for a Metallica album, very atmospheric in a sense, if that makes any sense. But yeah, it's still a really good album, and I will say this is probably, it's not my favorite Metallica album, but it's definitely an important one in their catalog. That's for sure. So of course, let's look at the packaging. So it comes in this LP replica, which is kind of nice. And you open it up, has a gatefold. So let's look at what's included. So let's look at the disc first. And it even comes with its own little sleeve, which is kind of nifty. So the disc looks like this. Please put you away. Then let's look at the booklet. It's pretty thick, not too thick actually. You open it up, you have the lyrics. Here's all the members of the band. Some imagery here. Last page here. Then you have more photos of the band on the back. All right, so there you have it. That is my number 5. Let's take a break on metal for a brief moment and let's go on to number 4, which is the Traveling Wilburys Volume 1. So we got a super group here now. We have Bob Dylan, Jeff Lynne of ELO, Tom Petty, then you have Roy Orbison, and then you have George Harrison. I mean that's like the Hall of Fame of great rock and folks heroes of all time. So yeah, this kind of came about by, if I remember correctly, this kind of came about at a whim, because, you know, George and Jeff were just making songs, and then just so happens they happen to get in contact with Tom, Roy, and Bob. They're like, hey, let's all record these songs. And so yeah, they kind of just made this album just out of the blue, and they decided to release it. And they decided to call themselves the Traveling Wilburys, kind of similar to what the Beatles did, you know, with the Sgt. Pepper and Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band, that sort of thing. But now they're called the Traveling Wilburys. So yeah, very cool album. You know, it's very roots rock, a little bit of Americana, some folk rock, a little bit, not too country, but maybe a little bit of it, but not too much. It's still a good old-fashioned rock album, and all the voices sound really good together. Yeah, I mean, Handled with Care, Dirty World, Rattled, Not Alone Anymore, it's really good. Excuse me. Heading for the Light, Tweeter and the Monkey Man, kind of interesting title there. And then of course my favorite song on here is the final song, which is End of the Line. Just a great song. So yeah, there's really not a whole lot to say about this one, but it's just a very good feel-good album. You can put this on and you can find yourself being in a nice good mood to listen to this. So let's go ahead, let's look at the inside here. So you have the band on the disc, which is kind of cool. I like that. And then from here we'll look at the booklet, which is not too long. I think it folds, I think. Okay, no, it's a booklet. Produced by Otis and Nelson Wilbury, which is a code name for one of the members. I can't remember who was who. I'm assuming Otis was George and Nelson was Jeff Lynne. That's what I think, at least. I'm pretty sure on that. It's a nice artwork, I guess. And of course, this was one of the last things Roy Orbison did before his death. Of course, he did. There was like a posthumous album after Roy passed away for his solo career. But you know, other than that, that's just kind of like the last thing he did when he was alive. So yeah, very good album, a lot of good songs. My number 4. From this point on, metal has basically dominated the rest of this list. So let's move on to my number 3. So this is a band I'm not sure how many people know, but if you're a metalhead, you might know. So the band's called Sanctuary, and this is their first album, which is called Refuge Denied. Pretty metal cover there. And on the back you have the band. I'm trying to remember how I came across this particular album. I think I was watching Sea of Tranquility, which is another music channel I watch constantly. And I think they did a whole video dedicated to power metal. And so they brought this band up, and I was like, yeah, that sounds interesting. Let's give it a listen. And I heard it on Spotify first, and I was like, whoa, I kind of like this. And I really enjoyed the vocals on here, which is by, I'm going to probably butcher his first name, but Warrell Dane. I probably butchered that, but I was very impressed by his vocals. Like he has a great mid-range, but also he has a good shriek as well, which I really enjoy. This album has a lot of thrash elements to it. It's very heavy. Great guitar work throughout. So the first song, Battle Angels, which is a great opening track. And then you have Terminal Force. And then you have Soldiers of Steel. The title track's kind of cool. And then they actually do a cover of White Rabbit from Jefferson's Airplane, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of cool. The Third War, Veil of Disguise, just a very good heavy metal album. And fun fact, this was actually produced by Dave Mustaine from Megadeth, which is kind of cool. I kind of like that. But yeah, it's a really good album. So if you're a metal guy and you have not heard this album, I suggest you give it a listen. It's very good. Definitely, I don't remember how many albums they did. I don't think they released that many because I think the lead singer died. I can't remember when, but yeah, it's kind of sad. So let's look at the booklet. So not much to say on the inside. It's just just gives you the lyrics, which is kind of cool, which is kind of nice. It's always good when booklets have the lyrics. So yeah, not much to say on the booklet. Let me just show the disc now. So here's what it looks like. The logo is actually kind of cool as well. I like the logo. Has a dagger through the S there. That's kind of nice. All right, so that is my number 3. My number 1 and my number 2 flip-flopped quite a few times making this list, but I'm pretty happy of what I have right now. So for number 2, we have Iron Maiden once again, and this is for their album Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. I would say this is kind of the album that made me a Maiden fan. I think I heard Number of the Beast first, and I really enjoyed that one, but I think this was the next album I bought, and this kind of cemented that, yeah, I'm a Maiden fan. And I really enjoy the cover, just really cool cover. I like the blue of it. You have Eddie there, of course, as this corpse thing, which, I guess it fits the tone. It kind of looks like it's in like this icy area. A lot of glaciers. I see a lot of icebergs. So it's kind of cool cover. I like that a lot. So this is actually a concept album, a heavy metal concept album. So it kind of deals with the whole Seventh Son trope or urban legend, shall we say. And it's all kind of revolved around that. It kind of deals with like seeing the future, stuff like that. That sort of thing. I'm not too much of an expert on the whole concept, apparently, but musically is what really drew me in. Of course, the sound of the band. This one has a lot more synths on it than on previous albums. I think the previous one kind of dabbled in it, but here they're kind of starting to embrace it a little bit more. But it's still very heavy. The guitars are still in the forefront, and of course the bass playing and drums are on points, and of course Bruce Dickinson's vocals, as I probably mentioned already, but he's great still. I mean, Moonchild starts us out, really sets the tone. Then you have Infinite Dreams, which is a good song. And then you have Can I Play With Madness, which was a single, and that's a catchy song. I still really enjoy that one. And actually the music video on it actually features Graham Chapman of Monty Python, which is a little fun fact there. I think that was one of the last things he did before he died, which is kind of sad, but The Evil That Men Do is great. The title track is a nice, good epic. The Prophecy, another epic. Then you have the Clairvoyant, which has a great bass intro by Steve Harris. And then it closes out with Only the Good Die Young. I mean, I already kind of briefly mentioned the story, but the story's kind of loose. There's not really a good concrete story. It all just revolves around the singular theme, and I think it's pretty cool. Again, produced by Martin Birch. So yeah, very good. Let's talk about the inside. So here's what it looks like without the disc on it. right there. And here's what the disc looks like. Very nice. And of course the booklets, like the ones before. This one's kind of thick, so it's going to take a while. Let me just quickly show you what the full artwork looks like. So yeah, very nice. So let's go on. Again, we'll go through this quick. So of course, each page has one of the members. Of course, it starts with Steve Harris. And of course, you got the lyrics. There's Bruce. Then you have Dave Murray. There's Adrian Smith. There's pictures here, but better show that briefly because there's some bare-chested women on that page. Yeah. You could, if you want, you could have paused it there on that page with the bare-chested women. So, if you want, hopefully it's in good quality. So, go nuts. Almost there, just a few more photos, just a lot of live shots here, which is, you know, Maiden's one of the greatest live acts around, and they're still touring to this day. All right, so that was my number 2, and as always, let's quickly show some honorable mentions.
I remember when we were driving in your car, speed so fast I felt like I was drunk. Wherever you go, I'll be with you. I'll always love you. In God we trust, this time we must. How do I know when it's long? I can't tell you.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real, I was kind of stretching on some of those honorable mentions. Again, I don't have much. So regardless, let's move on to my number 1. It's kind of funny that my number 2 was a concept album, and my number 1 is also a concept album, another heavy metal concept album, a heavy metal rock opera, if you will. And that album is Operation Mindcrime by Queensryche. So, I've been listening to this album a ton recently. I heard it, I think I first heard it last year, and I really enjoyed it then. But all of a sudden, this past couple months or so, I've been really listening to this album a lot. And oh man, this is probably one of my favorite metal albums of all time. Like I said, it's a heavy metal rock opera because it's another concept album, and this one has a more concrete story. So the basic story, without spoiling too much, is about this kind of, I guess, this delinquent, shall we say, named Nicky. He's a drug addict. He's kind of down in the dumps. You know, he's sick of society, just seeing all the propaganda and all that stuff. He's sick of it, and he winds up. Sorry, it's been a long day. He winds up joining this kind of cult thing where they basically brainwash him into assassinating all these political figures. And so it deals with, you know, corruption, it deals with drugs, it deals with cult, if you will, and so many other stuff. Very, very interesting. And the music is just really phenomenal. Like, the guitar work on here is fantastic. Even the bass has a few times to shine. I was pretty surprised for a metal album. I mean, aside from Iron Maiden and like other bands, like the bass really has some great standout moments as well. And the drums are very solid as well, very good. And of course, the vocals by Jeff Tate, just absolutely spectacular. Like, his range is just off the chain. Just so many great vocal lines he does. And of course, he's playing this pretty much most of the parts, most of the characters here, but he does a great job on it as well. They do have one guest vocalist who plays a female part, and even she, I can't remember the female vocalist on the album, but she sounds great as well. But yeah, it's a terrific album, and a lot of the topics on this album are kind of timeless because some of the stuff they talk about, all the division going on in politics and all that stuff is pretty prominent today. So that's very cool. So yeah, if you have not heard this one, I really suggest you check this album out. It's very good. One of the greatest metal albums, like I said, that I've ever heard. Really, I've definitely put this in my top 100 favorite albums of all time. Maybe even, heck, even probably in top 20 if I'm gonna be honest. So, just show you the disc there, but the booklet, there's not a whole lot to say, and honestly, I think I'm missing pages. If I think, I'm not sure, but it feels kind of thin. I feel like there's more to it. And this was a used copy, so of course there's a hole in my booklet, and it's kind of ironically the shape of like a spade or whatever, from like a deck of cards or something like that. It's kind of weird. But yeah, open it up. I think that you have the lyrics there. It's all kind of just in this one blob, this one giant paragraph. So that's kind of weird. Then you have the credits, and there's a photo of the band. Jeff Tate on vocals, keyboards, whistles, and blurbs. Chris DeGarmo on electric guitars, 6-string acoustic guitars, 12 strings as well, steel app, synth guitars. You have Michael Wilton on electric guitars and acoustics as well, Eddie Jackson on bass, and they have Scott Rockenfield on drums. So there you have it. That's my number 1 favorite album of 1988. Again, there's probably tons of albums from this year that I have not heard of yet. So that's where you guys come in. In the comments below, let me know not only your thoughts on my top 5, but also make sure you let me know some of your favorite albums of 1988. And hopefully one day I'll check them out as well, just so I kind of expand that year. Because as of now, like I said in the beginning, it might be my least favorite year of this decade. But, it is what it is. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please give this video a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video, and which will be, it won't be in the next video, but pretty soon we're going to talk about 1989, which is the final episode of this series. So again, subscribe, make sure you hit the bell so you get notified of when that episode comes out. So that's all I gotta say. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you then. Goodbye for now.